Okay, should be ready to go now. Waiting for people to come back. Anybody that comes on, let me know about the sound. Test, test. Sounds good. Is it echoey at all? I'll wait for people to connect back here. I have questions to start from that's on our community. See how many people actually get on here. The super chat should work now, which helps us. Any training questions? Take that. We just kind of see how this goes. See how many people come on. I'm going to apologize for anybody that caught this last weekend. I only ran it for about 5 minutes because nobody came on. So we'll see how this goes as well. Try to get a couple questions rolling as people are notified. This is another reason to click the notification bell. Obviously, it would help if we can schedule these, but I do not know when I will have time to be able to do these things. And it's easier to do it after my training on the weekend, and I don't ever really know when I'm going to finish. So how much accessory volume for 531? That would probably be more a question for Jim, and I believe it's answered in the book, so I can't really address that. Looking at the community questions, seeing what we got here. Will we ever sell the black fifth set shirts again? I don't know. I mean, it's I want to say it's kind of out of my department, but it's kind of in my department at the same time. A lot of the reasons why we discontinue products is because they don't sell. So it makes no sense to bring back in a product that we don't have the inventory to actually move it. So what do we got here? GPP, preparations for powerlifting in general and relationship to Conjugate, recovery factors. Okay. While we're waiting for more people to come in here, GPP. GPP is dependent upon, just think of it as conditioning and your ability to recover. It's going to be dependent upon what you're actually training for. So GPP for powerlifting is going to be completely different than GPP for, say, a football player. So for a football player, weightlifting and strength training is GPP. So you got to look at it from that way. So a GPP for a powerlifter and the recovery aspects, I always like to fall back on some very, very simple things. Are you making progress? If you're making progress, then I don't know why you're asking the question, because if you're experiencing forward momentum, then nothing you're going to do is going to expedite that forward momentum. You're going in the right path, but you can do a lot of things to screw up the forward momentum. So now if you don't have that forward momentum, or it's not at the rate that you want it to be, which that becomes also very hard to define as well, then you can look into those things. So certain indicators to kind of help with this is if you're not able to recover efficiently between sets, on however you want to define that. So say it's 80% sets. If you can't recover in 3 to 5 minutes for, threes or fives at 80%, well, then you probably need GPP. You're out of shape. So you need to bring the conditioning up. So there's different ways to go about that. One of the things I like to use is the dynamic work with short rest periods. So say 10 sets of 2 on a box squat or a squat with 1 minute rest periods. How effectively can they get through that? Then over a 3-week period of time, using the same weight, can they take that up to 20 sets? If they can get through that phase, that conditioning phase, and then there's probably not going to need to be a whole lot of GPP outside of just basic recovery stuff as needed moving forward. If that's just a complete disaster and it's not going to be able to happen, say the first week it's 10 sets, and then even during that 10 sets, the rest periods have to be increased on the second half of those sets because the form's breaking down or the speed's not where it needs to be. Then it's going to be more indicative of the conditioning needs to come up. How can that conditioning be put in? It can be put in with more bodybuilding type work. It can be put in on off days with sled work, things like that. The thing with the GPP is you do not want it to take away from the core aspect that you're trying to develop. It's supposed to aid in that. We'll just leave it with that. Is it wrong to bob your head when doing shrugs? I can legitimately say I've never been asked that question before in my life. So I don't know why you would. So I'd have to see what's really going on there. I mean, if it's just a natural head movement because you're shrugging your shoulders up, I really wouldn't worry about it. But if it's more than that, any unnecessary movement on any exercise is something that I would typically try to avoid with that. Okay. What are the must tricep exercises in your opinion and rep ranges? My sticking point is in the middle part. I don't think anything is a must, right? I don't think any exercise is per se a dangerous exercise, and I don't think there's any exercises that are absolute must. If you feel that the middle part is because of your triceps and your form's pretty solid, then at that range, I like a JM press, maybe a close grip board press, just under where that sticking point is, maybe an inch under that. So it could be, everybody's got different arm lengths, right? So it could be like a 1 board, maybe a 1.5, possibly a 2 board. Rep ranges, depending on where it is in the training, if it's like a second movement, then multiple sets of triples. If it's going to fall a little bit deeper in the training session, then 5s. If it's going to fall real late in the training sessions, then I don't know how much it's really going to help from the strength aspect, but then it would be higher over the 5s. What's going on? I'm answering your questions. What kind of equipment do you need? This is a good question. What kind of equipment do you need with the program that you're working on with John? We've had some conversations on that one. All you're going to need is the basic equipment that everybody has access to. And I understand that. And I get that, because the majority of the people that are going to purchase the program are going to use the program. That's all they're going to have access to. It makes it hard for me, because a lot of the things that I want to put in there, for instance, I like challenge sets of doing deadlifts off blocks. So the weights are sitting on blocks with chains for, high reps. I'm hesitant on to say it's a safe exercise, but it's generally people are they're going to be able to do that to failure with higher reps more so than they're going to be able to do something like that off of the floor with straight weight. But when speaking with John, you got to people they don't have chains. They don't have the blocks, so a lot of the things have to be stripped way down. And we toyed around with the idea of some of these things that I want to put in there, that was one of them, to be able to have a supplement aspect of the program for those people that do have that stuff, so they could do that in place of. but the conversation just kept defaulting back to the number of people that actually have that stuff is so small, it's really not doing it. So maybe in a future program, we will be able to put things like that in there. So we had to embark on this, assuming that all they have access to is the very, very basic stuff, which I get. It's a good thing. I'd rather have it otherwise, but what good is a program if people can't have access to the things you're putting in the program? Hey, Dave, I'm staying tight, but I'm having problems engaging my upper back into the bar at the bottom of the squat. How do I change this? It is weak. Having trouble engaging the upper back into the bar. Upper, what part of your upper back? Because it can be lats, it can be a lot of different things. So I'll give you an example of what I'm talking about. John Meadows was out, what is today, Saturday, yesterday, and we were filming some stuff for his channel, but also for the program that we're working on. And one of the guys that he had come out was having a difficult time stabilizing, engaging, the upper back with the squat. So it was more lats than anything else. So this person had a bodybuilding and powerlifting background. So it was easier to cue that and to fix that. And he used a closer grip on the bar to tell him to just think about doing a back double bicep shot and opening the lats up. Did that, open the lats up, which is basically just tightening and contracting the lats, problem fixed, right? So that's that person. Now, last week there's a different person, and the problem wasn't with the lats. It was more so with, the upper middle back, keeping that together. It still kind of falls back onto the lats, but it's a different type of cue. So that's, think about trying to depress the shoulders. So when you say your upper back, I don't know what you're talking about because I don't really need to see it. So I'm going to give you a couple different things. You can think about doing a back double bicep. Just think about tightening your lats. So if somebody was to grab your lats, they're going to be flexed. That's the first thing. And also think about trying to have those lats pushed down. That's going to be the second thing. All right, there's a lot of questions now starting to come through here. If the super chat is turned on, I hope it is. If the super chat is turned on, that helps me see what questions is. It also helps to support us with this. So as I'm kind of going through here, I'm going to go back over here, to the other ones. And one of them here was, will I continue to keep doing the table talks like what this thing is? We're still talking about potential for the podcast. This thing here, this open Q&A, I don't know. If you look at the traffic from that, there's a couple that you don't even see because we put them up and the engagement wasn't there and we took them back down. I tried to do this last Sunday because Sunday on the community was the most popular day, and opened it up and like 5 people showed up. 10, I think it was 15. For 20 minutes, I just shut it down because I can't spend my weekend sitting there for that. And so I don't know, here, I don't know. I'm looking at the very first time I jumped on here and the engagement was good. The number of people was good. And, the super chats were good. Everything was good. So I look at that one. Then I look at the second one that was done during the week. And it's got half the traffic as the first one. So you got to understand all we have to go on with this is what people like, what they want to support, what they don't want to support. So if it's not going to be supported, I'm not going to spend my time on Saturday sitting here answering questions that nobody really gives a fuck. I would find something else to do. For example, last week I did the washed up meathead post, which was simple to do. It was with my phone. People love that. So obviously I need to do more of that and less of this if I'm following the feedback and looking at where the support's coming from. So I don't know is the answer. I don't know, so I'll do a couple more of these, but the downward trajectory of it, and it's not looking like it's going to be something I'm going to continue to do. Think of it like training, right? So I'm a big advocate of training economy. You're just not going to throw a bunch of stuff in a training program without any reason. And the stuff that you put in the training program has to have a specific purpose, and it has to have correspondence, or it has to have a carryover. So I got a lot of things that I have to do that are part of building and growing this company. I can't spend my time doing things that don't have any real value to help the company grow, because there's an opportunity cost associated with that. So the time that I'm spending, 20 hours a week doing content is 20 hours a week I'm not doing things that are going to help me be able to pay content staff and to pay payroll and all the other kind of things. So that's the easy answer there. So it all comes back to, we're going to keep trying to put different things out, and we're going to do things that people like. Obviously, they like the washed up meathead tips, so we'll do those, but not expand a lot of energy into things that people obviously aren't going to support. It's kind of simple. Like, why do a lot of exercises in a training program if they're not going to help you? You're just not. So it's the same concept. So the cool thing with that is the viewers, the followers, customers, people that support us, they're the ones driving this. I'm not driving it. I'm just responding to what we're seeing and following the analytics with that. So that's that. I'm done with that. The super chat, again, is one way to be able to show us, it helps. It definitely helps. It makes a lot of the, when we look at the content, especially on YouTube, because people think you make money on YouTube. I can tell you right now, that's bullshit. Well, it's not total bullshit. I mean, you make money on it, but if you had to hire 2 people to be able to help produce YouTube content and you got that payroll, then you got to look at that payroll compared to the $35 the video brought in. If it's a good video, you can do the math. You can kind of see where it goes. The super chat thing is kind of a little different thing, because that's directly supporting the content and directly goes back to the content. Otherwise, I'm just rambling, so whatever. Thoughts on reverse hypers? I love reverse hypers. I want to clarify something, though. The reverse hyper, it is trademarked and it is patented, and I got a long history with Louis, and I understand all the things that have to go through with that. A reverse hyper is his reverse hyper. So anything outside of his reverse hyper, in my opinion, and actually legally, should be referred to maybe as a bilateral leg lift or whatever it's going to be. So with that in mind, assuming that it's, his machine, in terms for that, I do like the reverse hypers. I like them a lot. I also like them. I like them in multiple ways. So I like, the 2 biggest ways I like that is to swing it, to let it swing. I call them heavy swings, right? So if you're on the machine and you look down, there's the posts on the front of the machine, and then the posts that are closest to your hips. So think the posts, the legs closest to your head, legs closest to your hips. When you're doing the heavy swings, you're going to let the weight swing more, and then you're going to reverse that swing when the pendulum begins to pass the legs that are closest to your head. That's for the heavy one. So that allows a little bit more momentum, and obviously it's going to allow a lot more weight. The strict version, you're going to need a lot less weight, and then you're going to reverse the weight as soon as that pendulum begins to cross the legs that are closest to your hips. There's a big difference between those 2. So I like to have people do both for different reasons. The swinging one tends to hit the glutes a lot harder. The stricter one, the lower back a lot harder. Things can get a little weird when it's a heavier person, because the reason I hate the reverse hyper personally, I like the benefits of it. I hate the machine because you can't frickin' breathe. So things need to be adjusted, and Louis got the one that has the, the table can shift a little bit. That helps some, It doesn't help that much, but it helps some. So if you got somebody that's a bigger person and they have a hard time breathing on the thing, the strict ones are usually going to be a lot harder for them to do because it's pulling in harder. Now, there's another way that I like to use with people for a warm-up rotation, and it's a bent knee reverse hyper. So now you're not even using the strap, you're not even using any weight, you're just hopping on the table, the bench, whatever you're going to be able to use. And you do the same movement, but you just keep your knees bent. And that's just more to warm up the glutes and the lower back. So there's a lot of other things to be able to do in there. There's single leg, but those three are pretty much staples anytime I'm looking at that unit. I'm going to go back through some of these super chats and see if there are questions with them, because those I will definitely answer as these other questions are pouring in. So Gumby, thank you for the super chat. Zeph, man, I love some of these. I don't even know if you call them handles or what they are. Zeph, Yudi, Raka, something like that. Keep it up. I appreciate that. Joseph Fahey, I appreciate that. The question is, what are the best ways to counter performance anxiety? Viagra? I'm sorry. Sometimes it's after I just got done training, so brain's still in the gutter. What's the cause of the anxiety? There's a lot of different things with. I really want to answer your question, but I need a little bit more context, Joseph. So you don't need to pop out another super chat, but if you can pop something out with a little bit more context. Are you talking about, I'll give you some examples here. Are you talking about max effort work? Are you talking about a meet? Are you talking about like a challenge set, or something work related or business related? Or well, I go to my Viagra question, in the bedroom, I don't know what it is. Pop that out and I'll be looking for it. Give me a little context, because I'll be able to give you a little bit more help on that one. Tim O'Donnell, any recommendations for getting the most out of a deadlift suit pulling conventional? Strongman is just getting into it. The thing with deadlift suits is it should always feel like a front wedgie. Right? I'm serious. I'm not joking about that. It should feel like somebody's just pulling up through your crotch. And when you sit down into it, it's a big part about how and why this works is, think about when you deadlift for reps. So you're doing a set of 3. For a lot of people, the second rep's always easier than the first. The reason for that is the hips are always going to be a little bit higher. It's not so much the momentum, it's the hip position. So one thing that the deadlift suit does, because there is no rebound with the deadlift, the one thing that the deadlift suit does is it's giving you a front wedgie. So if you're trying to sit too low, you can't. So the straps on the deadlift suit are going to enable you to be able to change exactly where that stopping point is going to be, because if that stopping point is too high, then your hips are going to be too high, and it's going to be almost like you're trying to do a stiff leg deadlift. If the hips are too low, then there's no point of having it at all. So you need to experiment and figure out where it feels right. The little tip that I used to have people do is to take I don't know if I have one here on my desk, take like a silver Sharpie marker, because you see where the straps, the Velcro, go on the back, and you'll see where the end of the Velcro is. Just mark that. That way you know where it is. And also keep body weight plays a function here as well. So if you're 10 pounds heavier and your stomach's bigger, it's going to change where that is a little bit, but at least it gives you that marker, because the newer suits, they're not going to stretch out that much after you wear them a couple times. They're pretty much good for forever. So that would be the best way to go about that. So there is some experimentation, but if you know what it's supposed to do, it's going to help cut that down tremendously. Brendan, would the conjugate system be suitable for a lifter in his early 50s? Yes, but I'm hesitant on a lot of these things because I don't know what people exactly mean by conjugate system anymore. Any system of training that is well designed and thought out is definitely good for any lifters in their 50s, 60s, 70s, 20s, teens, whatever it's going to be. There are going to be individual variances after a certain point, but all programs should be able to address those individual variances. Is one program going to be better than another program? Personally, I don't think so. I think it's a matter of finding the program that's going to fit the individual needs or the team needs best. Now, if other people will disagree, but sometimes those other people got vested interest in certain programs. So, yeah. Okay. I want to find Joseph Fahey. I'm still waiting for you, bud. Give me some context. You don't have to be super personal about it. Just give me a general context. There we go. Cool. Just hitting the numbers I'm supposed to in training is so stressful. What? I'll lose sleep over it. So say I have a big squat planned on Monday. There's a fat chance in hell I'm okay. Okay. Here, I popped it in. I got it. Okay, we're good. Here, you got to accept certain realities. So if it's a heavy squat that you have planned, one of three things are going to happen and two are not good. You just have to accept that. You're either going to get hurt, you're going to make the lift, or you're going to miss the lift. You just have to accept that. So nothing outside of, rest, nutrition, and all those things. If you're doing what you're supposed to be doing in training, nutritionally, and resting, it's just going to follow the plan. So I want to sit here and tell you to not get stressed about it, right? But I can't do that because obviously you are, and that's shitty advice. So I'm gonna be a little bit different here. I'm gonna tell you just to embrace the stress. Just know it's gonna be there. It's like, okay, shit, I got a heavy squat day. These things always freak me out, but I'm just gonna be freaked out about it when I get to the gym. There's no sense to get freaked out about it the night before. Just admit the fact you're going to be freaked out about it, that it makes you anxious. Just push back when it does. Think about it this way. You're telling me that you can't sleep the night before, correct? Well, you're not freaking out about it the morning before, and you're not freaking out about it the day before that or the day before that. If you're only squatting once a week, hell, the only time you're freaking out about it is the night before. So you've already managed to push that anxiety back 6 days. All I'm asking you to do is to push it back, another several hours until you get to the gym. Because once you get to the gym, you can take that anxiety, that nervous energy, and use it as a positive thing, right? Because then it can almost become fight or flight, and you can kind of go in that direction there. The closer that you can get that to the actual time when you need that performance, it's so much easier to manage, because the closer you get, then it becomes another conversation where, if you're in the gym and I'm talking to you in the gym and this lift is going to happen within an hour, then it's just the same type of thing. It's like, listen, all you need to do is just don't fuck up the 15 seconds it takes to do the set. You can fuck up everything else in the gym. You can fuck up everything else in your life. I don't care. Just don't fuck up the 15 seconds. Can you manage the 15 seconds? That's a manageable bite. You see what I'm saying? So break this down into something that's a manageable bite, then that you can use that to your advantage. Another way around that is to put yourself in situations like that more frequently. A benefit with max effort work, conjugate work, that doesn't really get talked about, actually never, is Louis used to drive it into our heads when we were training with him, is I joke around because we wouldn't know what the max effort exercise was going to be until we were in the gym. And people think I joke about it, and it's true. So if it was Monday, max effort, lower body, we have no fucking idea what we're going to do for the max effort. I mean, no idea. literally you come into the gym, you sit there because nobody ever got there late. So you sit there, say I'm sitting there and I walk in and Louie's there. Louie and Chuck's there. It's like, hey, what do you want to do for max effort work? I'm like, I don't know. What do you want to do? And this same conversation just bounces back and forth with each person that comes in. So after like 7 people, we're like, I don't know. What do you want to do? I don't know. What did we do last week? What do you want to do? I don't know. It's at some point in time, somebody's going to walk in and they're going to say, look, man, I don't care what we do, but I do not want to do pin 2 deadlifts. And then we'd all be like, fuck, we're doing pin 2 deadlifts. So the point being, nobody knew what we were going to do. So, but we knew it was still going to be max effort. We knew it was still going to be our battle. You know, I hate to use stupid words like that for training, but we knew that's what it's going to be. And then once you're in the mix of all that, you know, you're trying to beat the guy that you can beat. I mean, some people obviously you're not going to be able to beat, but you're trying to, you know, beat your best and you're trying to beat them. But it was every freaking week. It was a different exercise every single week. So then we got used to that and it became no big deal. The only big deal with it then is obviously you got to turn it on at a certain point for max effort work, but you don't want to turn it too high, is, you know, how to be able to put it from there. So I'll leave that with that. I hope that helps. You know, give it a shot, see if it works. If not, you know, I'm not going to say that, you know, then come back next time and we'll try a different route. Okay. Brian Hickey, thank you for the super chat and the question. Any cue to correct my squat? I tend to shift to my dominant leg when I drive out of the hole. I don't know if there's any injury history. I don't know there's a lot of other factors that could be causing this. So I'm just going to assume those factors don't exist. I'm going to give a couple different Band-Aid solutions here. Look at your stance. Maybe you can move your stance out. Maybe it's going to fix that. Make sure that your feet are even. So sometimes people will put one foot in front of the other. I'm not going to say that that's bad. For some people, that makes it okay. But if you're doing it and you even those up and then it goes away, there's that as well. I want to know why you feel something is a dominant leg, right? Because that brings up a whole other thing. And usually everybody, from what I've seen, is going to have a dominant arm or a dominant leg, but then you put them in a position to where they have to use both a squat, a deadlift, a leg press, or something like that. The dominance it kind of balances out unless there's an injury or something like that. So I would look more at things that you may not be seeing. Is the bar even on your back? Is your grip even on the bar? Yeah, all those little things. And yes, I know what this sounds like, but let me give you a story to kind of justify this. For a long time after I don't know what shoulder surgery was. It was the first or second. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. The monolift that we were using to train with faced away from the wall. So we were able to have side spotters, but with the size of the box that we were using to have a back spotter, it really didn't even make any sense anyhow because you had the side spotters, but nobody was ever behind. And because the monolift was facing away from the wall instead of towards the wall like we did for several years, and I do think away from the wall is better, but just follow me here for a minute. I kept starting to have adductor problems, groin problems, knee problems, nothing major, but it's like a spiral. And it's like, what the hell? You know, what is the deal? And, you know, so I'm trying to address all these different things to be able to fix this. Then we had a strength coach come in that was a guest and was behind and then pulled me aside and asked me why I was holding the bar a couple inches off center. And I'm like, what the fuck? But I know why, right? It was because, you know, I didn't have the mobility to be able to hold the bar on my back, even because it was post-shoulder surgery and I was rushing the whole thing. But what I'm trying to tell you is, you know, at the level that I was at, that's such a simple thing that you would think the people I was training with, somebody would have picked up on this, but it was so simple that it was something that nobody was even bothering to look at. But that was creating adductor problems, back problems, knee problems, and all these other issues And it felt right to me because it was post-surgery and it's going to feel tight no matter what you do. So that's one of the reasons why I'm going there first. All right, let me flip through here for Super Drats. Matthew, I really appreciate the content on Elite FTS puts out. I'm really happy with how. Thank you for the super chat. Thank you for the purchase. The Iron Cowboy bar. I think we need to change the name of that one because it is a really good power bar, but it hasn't sold the way that we thought it would. And I have a feeling that it's the branding, it's the name. So you heard it here first. We may change the name of that just because it should be selling better. It's priced fair. A lot of times we have it free domestic shipping as well. It's a very high quality power bar. There's just something with that drills down to just be that. But thank you for the comment. Hey, Dave, business professional question. If you were changing careers, how would you translate your skills and professional abilities to prospective employers? I am lost in the world right now. First off, you got to find yourself before you can try to explain that to other people. I know what you're saying. I'm just kind of putting that out there. If I had to change careers, I don't believe that's up to me. I don't think if I was to change careers, why do I need to explain that to anybody? You know, I know what you're saying. It's like, how are you going to be able to find a job with whatever that is? Be good at what you're doing. So if you're going to change careers, whatever career you go into, be good at it. And I'm assuming that you're from the US. There's a lot of things going on in the market right now. I can't speak from a large corporate perspective because I'm not, you know, so I can speak from a small business. And some things that people need to know that are in your position is hiring people right now is very difficult. And I have speculations on that. You know, I'm not going to talk things. I was raised to not talk about, you know, religion, politics, or money. It's just how I was raised. It's just what I'll talk about that with people that I'm friends with, close with, but by no means am I going to do that online. That's not my place. And God knows we've had enough of that from everybody. And religion's the other one. So those three things are kind of like off the table. But my point here is the marketplace is very, very hard to hire people right now because a lot of people just, they don't want to work. So if there's people that want to work and as an employer, you can tell the person wants to work and they'll apply themselves to learn and they don't have to be micromanaged, then it's not going to be that hard to find a job. You know, this isn't just me speaking. I have a whole network of other business owners and we're all seeing the same things. And so I wouldn't worry about that. If your work ethic is strong and your ability to do the work is strong and your ability to figure shit out is good, you really don't have anything to worry about except here from what I'm seeing. And I don't know you, Will, so don't take this the wrong way by any means. I wish you the best. Your confidence, you got to work on that because that's what people want to see. Is what people don't want to do is to be able to hire somebody and then have to Google how to do things to tell them what to do, because what are you hiring the person for? And I hear that across the board. So I hope that helps. That's, you know, as you know, somebody that reviews resumes and from our perspective, if this means anything, I completely stopped looking at if they have a college degree or not. I want to know the work experience and I want to know if they can figure shit out. I don't give a shit about that anymore. I don't care. You know, I've seen too many times where I'm not going to say it doesn't matter, but I've seen too many times where they've been outshined tremendously by people that may not have had that or have a trade school degree or, you know, just grassroots education that are just destroying them. And that's granted, there's going to be certain fields where that's going to be necessary, but don't let that be a shortcoming either. Okay, tell us again. about adding mayonnaise and sausage biscuits from McDonald's for bulking. Just kidding. Thank God you're just kidding. I've told that so many times. I will say with that, because it seems like this is the part that always gets left out. That wasn't like something that was done for years on end. It was done for a few months, to break a plateau. Then it kind of, leveled back out a little bit. What muscle imbalances do you see the most in powerlifting, and how do you avoid these? Muscle imbalances is a weird words, because how do you define that exactly? So I don't look at that. What I look at are what issues do I see the most, and then how to address those issues. The issues that I see the most are the ability to be rigid or stay tight. You can call it rooting, you can call it bracing, you can call it whatever you want. If somebody's standing in a squat and say they're holding a broomstick, I should not be able to move them. If I walk over, now granted, if I walk over and punch or push them hard, yeah, they're going to move. But if I'm just lightly pushing on any area, that I should not be able to move them. Same with the bench. If they got a 45-pound bar and they're set up in the bench, I should not be able to move them. That I see isn't the case most of the time. So that would be the number one. The second issue is the ability to apply force or compensatory acceleration. Just move the bar with force. And nobody's ever going to impress me with moving the 45-pound bar at hyper speeds. I don't care about that. It drives me crazy. That I understand dynamic training. I understand all that stuff. So even if somebody's for dynamic or not for dynamic, I don't care about that debate whatsoever. But what I do matter to me is you have to have the ability to generate force, especially if it's strength training. Bodybuilding, yeah, we can have a discussion about that. Maybe not being as important, but that ability to generate force matters, so Hatfield was calling it compensatory acceleration. There's a lot of different terms for this, but it's just those two things by far are the biggest. Everything else is a vastly weighed down, like those are here and those are like way under the floor. That's how different it is. Those two things to everything else. What is this official mod stuff? How do I get rid of this fuckhead? I'll figure this shit out next time, but whoever the person is doing this, fuck off and go away. Actually, I shouldn't have said that because they're just going to stay here. So hide user, see if that does anything. All right, back to the questions. I'll figure this out next time, but fuck that dude. I told myself I was going to try to get through this without using profanity. Guess that didn't work. All right, back here. Let's go back. Okay. Cody Remy, do you have any experience with someone training conjugate while on keto? Also, do you ever deload or take weeks off? I can't necessarily say I have experience with anybody doing conjugate on keto, but keep in mind, I also can't say I got experience of training anybody doing conjugate on the food guide pyramid, or I don't have experience with anybody training conjugate that only eats cereal, or anybody training. I don't venture in that. If I'm helping anybody nutritionally, the questions are more along the lines of, are you recovering? Are you staying hydrated? And a lot of that you can just kind of tell by how they look, if they're not as full, in certain areas. It's easy to kind of tell in the tricep area. Sometimes the trap depends on the person. Then I may ask, what their caloric intake is. That's usually going to be the first question, and then the hydration, and then it might be, carbohydrate. But I don't want to say that's not important, because nutrition is important. I think the extent to which a lot of people are making it is a little bit too much. So so we'll just leave that there. You know, it's spend more time learning about how to train and how to recover. The brother, whatever it is. Hey, what's up, Dave? How do you know what you're more genetically gifted at in terms of max effort or dynamic work, and use it to your advantage? That's a good question. Time. I mean, I'm trying to think of how I began to start to figure it out, because here's a couple things, and none of this is science-based. Maybe it is if somebody goes and looks it up. I don't know. But I was starting to find that there were a lot of different max effort exercises that they just weren't progressing like they should. You know, the best example is the suspended chain good morning. It didn't matter if it was a safety bar, buffalo bar, whatever it was. I sucked at that. I was terrible at that. And there could be some leverage issues for that. It was terrible. And over a 7-year stretch, it might have went up 5 pounds. That was just more a matter of, can I do what I did last time? And if I did, I was happy with it. My squat went up 200 pounds in the same time period with the same gear. So there was nothing else that really changed outside of that except that. So that kind of told me that this exercise probably doesn't help me a lot. But it might be more of a test, because if I couldn't do, then the weight was like 455. If I couldn't do the 455, then this shit probably wasn't good. But if I could do it, then things were on point. And so that was that. But a lot of the max effort stuff for me was not moving at the same rate to have that correspondence. Now, if my speed work, when that felt right, the meets always went really well, you know. And in comparison of my speed work compared to others that I trained with, and this isn't my ego or me talking, the people I train with would all say the same thing. I was faster. I wasn't stronger. I was faster. So I fell more on that side of that spectrum. So that became more of a matter for me of, what was I going to be able to make that even faster? To be honest, in my mind, no, I wasn't. I had to compete with it at the best rate, at my best rate. So certain things in the off season and stuff like that, it may drop down a little bit. So I knew where it was supposed to be and how it was supposed to feel, not the weight, how it felt, because I can feel a certain, like a pop, you know, with that. On the flip side of that, there were people that I trained with that they didn't have that pop and they never had that speed, but their max effort stuff was through the roof. So that's kind of how I balanced it. And I don't know how you're going to really be able to balance that unless you're doing it both for over a period of time, you know, to be able to know. And here's the other thing. I don't know if it matters, because the only way it really mattered to me is I knew, and you kind of learn this anyhow, if you're peaking for things, how things are supposed to feel. I knew to not get that stressed out if the max effort stuff wasn't going where it was supposed to go. But if my speed work was not feeling the way it was supposed to feel, there were some things that I had to change to bring that up. And some of those things were accessory movements that I knew would help drive that up. So for me, a close grip incline press, if my speed on my bench began to fall down, if I threw in the close grip incline as an accessory for multiple sets of 3 or 5, within a couple of weeks, wham, that speed came right back up. I pulled it back out and I put it back in. So those are those little correlations that you kind of figure out over time. Would we take a look at developing a rack, mountable, reverse hyper? Watson has one. Probably not. There's a lot. Let's put The reason for that is we have to develop things that people are going to buy. You know, there's a lot of things that I want to develop and a lot of things that I want to do that they're not going to do well in the market. So, and that's not just speculation. I've been doing this for 2 decades. So you got to put the focus where you're going to get the greatest return, especially on things like that, because it costs money to develop those things. And there's other companies that are already doing it, and the other companies that are already doing it are going to be able to do it cheaper than what we can. So there's that as well. What are some of the best lessons that you've learned about life from training through adversity? Also, why do you hate the deadlift so much? I just suck at the deadlift. I mean, I've never been that good at the deadlift. So the honest answer to that is I'm not good at it, so I don't like it. You know, if I was, let's put it this way, you think I would hate it if I was really good at it? So, I mean, I can sit there and give a lot of reasons, you know, but I just don't, that's the biggest one. I don't like it. I never have. Now, I like doing a high rep deadlift, but that's only because it's a challenge to be able to do that. But that's that. Some of the best lessons from training that I've learned to get through adversity. Adversity is adversity. I mean, it's part of life. So I guess that would be the biggest thing is you train long enough, you realize there's a lot of things that you do have control over, but you also realize there's a lot of things that you don't have control over. It's just going to happen. You know, it's, as I said earlier, if you're going to lift big weights or if you're going to push a set, you know, to a maximum, 1 of 3 things are going to happen and 2 aren't good. You just have to accept that. And not only accept that, you need to accept the repercussions of what that means. So, yeah, it's a great statement that if you're going to lift a heavy weight, you know, 1 of 3 things are going to happen, and you're going to make it, you're going to miss it, or you're going to get hurt. It's a great statement, right? But you have to come to terms and understand that those 2 bad things, they can happen. And there's not always going to be make the weight, because it's a great motto. You can pound your chest about how great it is until you tear something off. Then all of a sudden you're like, man, that's bullshit. This sucks. This sucks. It was this. It was this. It was this. Well, you made that. You accepted that risk when you embarked on that. So don't bitch about the risk that you accepted to take when you got into it. So I guess that would be the biggest lesson is anything that you're going to do, if it's in life or business or whatever it is, there's a risk associated with that. So you have to, you know, if you have a business, or just take the business side, just say it's training or whatever it is, you have to look at you know, what's the objective here, and how's that objective going to be achieved? And then you start looking at what's the pros here, what's the cons here, you know, what's this side, what's that side, and then you got to dig down deep into both of those. You just can't go off what somebody says here and what somebody says here, because that's bullshit. It's almost always bullshit, because what somebody says, they can say, well, this means this, 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 and this, because this study says so. Then you go look up that study, and that fucking study doesn't even talk about that. So what those people say, I'm not telling you to discount that. What those people say give you more indicators on where to go look. Right. So just say the media. If you're going to read something in the media, you know, one side's got one opinion, one side's got the other opinion. Well, where'd the opinion come from? What's the source of the content? Go look at the original source and then dig down on that source, because if you're the CEO or you're running a business, you can't go off people's opinion. It's bullshit. There's no substance behind that. You have to look at what is the real source here, because there's going to be pros and cons of everything. And then when you look at that real source and you do your best to validate what that source is, and then if you need to, you can find experts to tell you a little bit about that, then you ultimately have to make that decision, A or B. And then you're responsible for whatever that decision is. You have to make the best informed decision that you can, right? So in training, are you just going to listen to the meathead in the gym that's going to tell you one thing that doesn't quite sound right, and not say, well, where can I go look to kind of learn a little bit more about that, and then dig down deeper a little bit? So that would be something. I don't even know if I learned that from the gym, right? Maybe I probably learned it more in business than anything else because, jobs and money is at stake. So the more informed decision is going to be the best decision. That helps because you're still going to make mistakes, and the mistakes could be the adversity, but there's also adversity, and adversity is part of life. And anytime anybody thinks that they're dealing with this great amount of adversity and it's so much and they can't, I don't want to go too deep about it, but think about Job. If you think things are so bad, go read the book of Job, then tell me about how bad it is. All right, there we go. So done with that one. Can't think of a question here. Thank you for the super chat, Randy. Appreciate that. Can we get the Dark Side shirts on the UK store? Maybe. I'll have to check into that. What do I think about smelling salts? It's up to you. I use them. I use them. I kind of don't know why, because for many, many years I didn't use them at all. I don't need them, but I still use them. So I guess I like them. I could fake it and act like I have one and probably get the same result. So some idiot comments on here. I hope they feel good about it because I'm just hiding it. So there you go. How important is creating a persona to communicate with your audience for business? How do you identify with the main characteristics of the persona? I'm not the person to ask about that, man. I'm just who I am. Here's the thing. If you have to create a persona that's not going to be who you are, then how do you maintain that all the time? I mean, I know why people do it. I get it. I don't know. It depends what kind of business you're in. Well, let's just put it out that way. I've been doing this for a long time. So the content in the form of articles, different things, I'm experimenting with all that. Financially speaking, my own content makes no difference to the company whatsoever. And we've looked at this many different ways. It makes no difference. I wish it did, but it doesn't. And I don't see that as a bad thing, because what happens if it's completely dependent? So what if your entire company and your entire business income is based upon one persona, your persona, and that persona is not even who you are? How do you scale? You can't, so I'm the wrong person to ask on that, because there's people that are trying to make, a business out of social media, YouTube personalities, and all the other kind of stuff. Obviously, I'm not good at that. So I don't even know if I care about that. What I care about is being upside down on content expense. I care about that because that's revenue. That's a lost opportunity cost that can go into things that can help grow the business, pay people more, create more jobs. So I'll just leave that there. I'm just talking in circles. World Peace 97. In the max effort work for deadlifts, if I'd like to do a deficit deadlift for my second movement, I'm weak on the bottom. What range should I train in over 90% or lower? It's max effort work. And am I understanding that you want to do 2 max effort exercises, or you're going to do 1 max effort exercise and then the deadlift deficit would be a second movement? If it's going to be the second movement, I don't know if I'd want to push it to this 90% range. I'd probably stick it more in like a 70, 80% range and take the repetitions up a little bit more. And I would call that more of a supplemental exercise than otherwise. Thanks for the great content. Any experience on hip impingement? and specifically the blockbusters MG feeling while I'm flexing and pain when internally rotation of the hip. I have 2 replaced hips, so I have experience with that. I would say have it looked at, and a lot of reasons for that. I'm not a physical therapist. I'm not a doctor, so I'm not going to blab on about that. But, and when you get it looked at by multiple people, because there's some people out there that think they can fix everything, and they can't. But you need to know what exactly is going on, because let's say it's a hip impingement, but your hip is so impacted that it's just shredding bone to bone. Then possibly there could be some things to be able to help that outside of that. But at the same time, if that is impinged and it's so impinged that it's impacted, and then every time you're moving, it's just scraping and tearing the bone apart even more, then the great mobility stuff that somebody may recommend to you and the high repetition work that people may recommend to you could be the worst thing that you could do, because that's more repetition, that's more tearing that joint apart than it is anything else, because it's impacted. So keep that in mind. So get it looked at, see exactly what's going on. And when I mean exactly what's going on, I'm talking imaging and something, not somebody looking at it and feeling it and touching it and saying it's this. You need to know exactly what's going on, especially if it's a hip or a shoulder or something like that. So see if I missed any. How long we've been going here? Anybody that's pushed through the super chats, I appreciate that. It helps a lot, because when we look at the content on the YouTube, obviously we look at the monetization of that, and the super chats are way higher than any monetization we're ever going to get for views. So that definitely helps us with that. While I'm waiting for some other questions to get in here, a lot of these are rehab question, guys, and I'd love to be able to help you out, but I'm not qualified for that. So I would say, with any of that, just like I said with the person asking about the hip, get qualified opinions and get a couple of them. And anybody that tells you they can fix anything, you probably want to get another opinion after that. Over here on these other questions that were posted in there, there was one that I wanted to answer because, to be completely transparent, they purchased a lot of stuff last week from elitefts to support us, and did make a mention of wanting to ask a question. And the question dealt with where to go. Criticism on social media and why I'm not on social media like I used to be. The time thing's a big part of that. As I was spending way too much time on social media because I thought there was more of a return on that than what it really was. And I'm not talking just the financial return, just a return in general of, how many people it's helping and what degree it's helping and who it's helping and all those kind of things. And then when you start to balance that out to the amount of time, when I'm talking the amount of time, I was just answering the questions or the DMs on Instagram. That was easily 2 hours a day, every single day. And then I did a Q&A on Instagram. This was for several years. A Friday Q&A on Instagram that I don't want to say it took the hours that I'm going to say, but it would start Friday like at 5, and then I'd finally finish them up Saturday like around 10. So it's kind of like a constant process of all that. And that was just there. But then there was a daily blog and articles and, the stuff for YouTube. And a lot of the videos on YouTube weren't doing anything. So it's just a lot. It was probably 40 hours a week. And then when you look at who that's helping, how many people that's helping, what difference it's making, there's got to be a balance there. And it's got to be a balance that's going to legitimately help, more people and the right people, people that actually care, and want to get better. And with all that, because I've been doing that to some degree, probably 30 hours a week since I started this company in '98, and I still do a lot now. It's just not to the same degree and in the same ways that people would see now. I'm making that point not to try to brag about millions of questions I've answered and all this other stuff. I don't need to do that. People can go look for themselves and see what I've been able to do. What I'm doing from that is I've also seen the backside of that, the criticism, the trolls, and, you know, all this other kind of stuff. And the best way to look at this is, and it's a little morbid. So I'm going to assume everybody that's listening to this at some point in time has been to a wake or a showing of somebody that's passed, either somebody dear to you, somebody close to you, and, you know, people that maybe weren't so much, and you just showed up out of respect. Not the funeral, the showing. When you're in the showing, I mean, no disrespect by this in any way, but when you're in the showing, you know, you got the person in the casket who's passed. Then closest to them, those people standing around, follow me. I got a point here I'm going to make. Those people standing around are the people who, they're hurt. I mean, they just lost somebody that was close to them. So they're hurt. You know, they're, for a lot of reasons, they're why, you know, the other people are showing up. As you move further back into the room, you start to find the people that are a little bit closer. You know, they're family members, they're, you know, siblings of the people that are closest to the casket. And they're there to support those people that are grieving, that are hurting. Then as you move back, you got people that are showing up out of respect. And I'm not, by anybody that's showing up is, you know, it's a good thing. They're all showing respect, and that's a good thing. But the further you move back in the room, you got a lot of people that the conversation shifts. You know, it's maybe a couple minutes about, you know, the person that passed, but then it's like, well, you know, how long do we need to be here? And anybody that's listening to me know exactly what I'm talking about, because you've either done it, heard it. So you know, it's like, well, you know, it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes. I mean, and that just proceeds to keep moving that way. There's people outside of that room, right, who they're not even there. They experience the loss as well, and so far. My point is, people spend too much time caring about the people in the back of the room and outside of the room. And they're doing that to the expense of the people who are in the front of the room. The people in the front of the room will think about you every single day they are alive after you've passed. Think of people that you lost that are close to you. You think about them every freaking day, every week. And the way that you're honoring them in the life that you're living right now is spending all your time giving way too much attention to people who are not even in the room. They're not even in the room enough to even give respect to the people that are in the room. So when you start getting upset about shit people are going to say on social media, and they're going to say, or hearsay and all this other stuff, remember, they're not even in the room. So why are you going to let your life be dictated by that? You know, let your life be dictated and live for those people that are closest to you. That's how I deal with the criticism. You know, it's irrelevant to me. It means nothing. That's how it should be. You know, that way you build better relationships with those people that are in the room, because that's living, right? So the living, learning, passing on. Everybody likes to talk about the passing on, but let's talk a little bit about the living part. That's living, right? So that's how you deal with the criticism, in my opinion. All right, back to this here. So Michael the Foot, how do you feel about using a heavy walkouts if running block training where the load is around 70-80% for weeks for a peak? Just not in that block. Like, it's I don't really have great opinions about heavy walkouts, but I get it. And I understand why people put them in there. So I'm not totally against that. I'm not a big fan of that in that block. I would be more a fan of it in that block when it's over the 90% range than that one, right? Just because of the stress that it's going to put. And I don't like to use central nervous system because nobody really knows how that even works to begin with. It's like a catch term to make people sound important. But what we do know is that there's let's just think of the spine, the compression that's going to be on the spine and the micro fractures that can happen just with handling the heavier loads. One of the reasons why you have these different training blocks is to become acclimated to that weight for that reason as well. So I feel that's just best pushed to that other block. Thanks for telling us about yesterday. Not sure what that means. Will you eat brown burgers? Burgers, yeah, I'll eat. I'm not really sure what you mean by that, but I'll eat burgers. Fucking like burgers. I'll have pizza waiting for me when I get home. How's that? As I'm waiting for another question to come in here, here's a glimpse into a day in my life. Pizza night's usually Friday night. I know most people aren't going to give a shit about this, but follow me. Maybe it will entertain you. Maybe you'll laugh about it. Maybe you'll see that I'm just human like everybody else. We had to move the pizza night from Friday night to tonight, which is fine. My oldest son, the one some of you may know from following us that has Asperger's, it's his thing, man. Pizza night's his night. A couple days ago, Wednesday, my other son, he got rear-ended at a stoplight. He's fine, but we didn't know it at the time when he got rear-ended. But anyhow, he's fine. Everything was fine with that. What we didn't know is the impact, did something to the gas tank and fuel line and stuff like that. Yesterday, we have John Meadows out here. We're filming content for his site, some of the content for the book that we're working on. And then after him, we have Tyrell out here, and we're doing some content for offensive line training, and all this stuff will be on YouTube. So we're filming that. My wife comes in and says, Bryce's car's on fire. And I'm thinking, it's a teenager, there's always some bullshit like that. And I'm like, well, you go take care of it. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to figure this out. My son's car literally was on fucking fire. The whole driveway was fucking in flames. And I got videos to be able to show this. And I'm watching this and you can't believe what you're actually seeing. So that's why we got pizza night on another night, because my whole neighborhood knows who we are now. So everybody's fine. Everything's okay. So it is kind of funny. If I could figure out, if I was still on social media, I guess that's the kind of shit you post on social media, but I'm not. So there you go. Okay. Opinion on fifth set. Its weakness, strengths, possibilities that could be added to the system. To be completely honest with you, I know Swede. I like Swede a lot. He's knowledgeable in his program. His program it works very well for a lot of people. 531 works very well for a lot of people. A lot of those programs work very well for a lot of people. So my opinion on them really doesn't matter. But at the same time, I've not studied these things. When I'm trying to build my training philosophy, I can look at a program like that or 531 or some of the other ones, and I can see what general path of periodization it follows. And after that, I really don't care, because my philosophy is going to be geared more around that specific individual. So what I'm trying to say here is I haven't studied that enough, or even 5'3" enough. And Jim is a very good friend of mine, to sit there and nitpick little intricacies about it, pros or cons. All program has pros or cons, because it serves no real purpose for me, because it's not gonna help with anything that I do. That's for them to be able to do that. So every program is going to have strengths and weaknesses. The best person to probably be able to assess those programs are going to be the people that designed them, and if they're transparent, they're going to be able to say, yeah, this is a weakness. This is kind of how we overcome that, kind of go from there. So I don't really have anything bad to say about it, but at the same time, I'm not one to take any program and say, this is definitively the best program. I like it. It has success. It's got a track record of success. So, I'm okay with that. If it was, and to be completely transparent, if it's a program that completely sucked, I'm not going to tell you the program completely sucked, but what I'll tell you is I won't talk about it. If there's somebody asked on this thing about a program that I think just completely sucks, I'm not going to answer it. I'm just not going to talk about it. So take that for what it's worth. Your kids show interest in lifting. Kind of. My oldest, I think he needs to, and he has for a long time, and he's not serious about it, but his training goals are going to be a little bit different. My youngest is 17. He really hasn't, and I don't push it. I want them to do, and I know every parent says this, I want them to do what they enjoy to do, and I'm going to support whatever they enjoy the most. I had a situation for myself to where, I was pushed into doing a lot of things that I really didn't want to do, and I'm not going to do that, so if they ever show the interest in it, most definitely I'm going to help, but I'm going to help more with things that they really are interested in. But do I stay in touch with Louis much these days? It's been a while. It's probably been a year. But every now and again, I see him. I mean, we're cordial. I mean, there's no animosity or anything like that. We don't cross paths as much, but, obviously COVID kind of messed up, because I used to see him in the same restaurants and stuff like that. So some of those restaurants no longer exist. Super chat question from Jay Bell. Actually, the fifth set question was from Dilly 4. Thank you so much for the super chat. Jay Bell, I'm trying to recover better between sets of 5 to 10 deadlifts, high rep deadlifts. Do you have any conditioning ideas that would transfer well to this? First thing is why? And I get why you're doing 5 sets of 10 in the deadlifts, but why do you want that to become better? Because, I mean, that's kind of like GPP in itself. So let me think about this here for a second, and then I'll tell you how you can probably get it to be better. 5 sets of 10 high rep deadlifts. Do you have any conditioning ideas that would help transfer to this? Yes, you can. I mean, I'm just going to throw shit out here now, right? So break it down into maybe a heavy day and a light day. So on the lighter days, try different breathing techniques, on each set of 10 with a lighter weight, because it's going to be easier to kind of practice that. And then on the heavier days, kind of cycle it back and forth. And what I'm going to tell you to do is to find ways to cycle that in 3-week periods. So you'll have, say, more of a heavy day, and then it's not going to be super heavy because it's still high volume, and then more of a lighter day. And then on the lighter day, you're going to use that more for recovery and more for timing as well, because sometimes you may be pulling too fast. Sometimes you may be pulling too slow. There's going to be a tempo that's going to be able to help you be able to exceed better at that. And a lot of this, when you're dealing with that and a big compound movement like that, breathing is a huge factor in that. So figuring that out, maybe you need to breathe, in a very rhythmic session with each rep. Maybe you may only breathe every 3 or 4 reps. That those lighter sessions are going to be able to experiment with that to kind of figure out what's right. After a few weeks, say you got a 3-week phase of doing that, just kind of learning those things. Then after that 3-week phase, then you can kind of push it a little bit in that next phase and bump up each one of those phases, 5 or 10% at the starting week, and then progress it from there. Any advice on someone that used to be a distance runner is now trying to power lift? Give it time. I mean, if you were a distance runner that was doing it for a very, very long time, it's going to take a little while for you to get acclimated to that. What I will tell you is I know a lot of distance runners that moved over to powerlifting, and it didn't take as long as what I'm saying. I'm maybe 6 months, a year, which relatively that's not that long of a period of time. And it wasn't what they thought it was going to be. They thought, because of, how their muscles have been trained for the oxygen, for oxygen over all that period of time, that their muscles have completely changed. It's not as, it can be at high levels, but it's not what so many people think it's going to be. It's just going to take a little bit of time. The biggest thing that I've seen working with people is getting them to stop running is the biggest thing. And because they still want to go out, because you love doing what you're doing. So they still wanted to get out and do a little road work. And then you ask them what a little road work is. It's like, holy shit, it's an hour, what I've always tried to do is to pull them off the road work and say, if you're still into this cardio thing, then let's just break this down into cycling or something that's going to be in a shorter distance that's completely different. And then if they want to keep in the running, absolutely. And then trying to figure out where to put in sprints into the program to be able to kind of fill that mental need as well. So that's my advice on that one. It can be a very lengthy conversation. Any reason we don't use knurling on our specialty bars? Cost. There's a couple reasons. There's cost, and there's because we texture coat it. I've never personally found a need for it, but the caveat is there. I use chalk, but with the texture coating, I've never felt there was a need. So not that I don't want to say. Obviously, there's a need, and if enough people wanted it and we could do it and not have to increase the price of the bar, which isn't going to happen, then there's that balance with that. So there's that, because it's our specialty bars that you're talking about. So like the American press bars and stuff like that. There's one difference between ours that some of the others don't have. Probably most of the others don't have. And that is the distance between the post, or the distance of the handle. When we first started making those, we were trying to simulate a log press bar. So the handle was a little bit longer. And then what happens is when the handle's longer, it's tweaking your wrist around a little bit too much. So we brought the handle down to be the same as what a dumbbell would be. So it creates less torque on that. So it's a better pressing thing. Because of that, and it doesn't sound like that would make that much of a difference, but because of that, that costs more, which, to be honest with you, I still don't understand why, because it's less. But, and some of our bars have 3 different diameters for each grip and stuff like that. So to be able to do, let's say if the knurling was the thing, we could do the knurling, but then we potentially would have to change that distance that is between those posts. So there's the give and take with that. How long is too long for a workout? Simple answer for that is, if you think it's too long, it probably is too long. If you're starting to get too bored with it, then it's probably time to shut it down for most. Okay, make another call out here. Before shutting this down. Anything I missed? I'm going to look here real quick, see if I missed any of the super chat questions. If you caught the front end of this, I don't know when I will be doing these. As I said earlier, I tried to do one last weekend. Basically, nobody showed up, so I shut it down. The traffic from the first one to the second one dropped tremendously, which is, keep in mind, we're running analytics on all this, which is telling us that, it may not be the best content for us to do. So this is going to kind of be another test here. So yes, we will be watching, the traffic, and, so share this, comment, all the things that you're supposed to do, because that lets us know if this is the content that you guys want. Otherwise, I'm going to put my time more into some of the other stuff that has greater value for you and for us. Again, the super chats help with that, because it's kind of a cheat way, because we don't really need monetization. Comes directly through that instead of coming through the hits on YouTube. So last call out for questions, and then I'm going to shut this down. Okay, that's it. I want to thank you guys for showing up. Please leave your comments, no matter what they are, good, bad, indifferent. It doesn't make any difference to me. Let us know what you think about this. If we should continue doing it. In the comments, let us know when you would like us to do this. The easiest time for me is obviously on the weekend, because I don't have a whole lot of other things planned. But if it's something people really want, I'll figure out how to do it during the week. But obviously, we're not going to do it if nobody sees value in it, and if it doesn't get the value and the traction here on YouTube. So that comes from you guys. It comes from the sharing. The other thing is, when I do these things, it's really, really hard for me to schedule the time. And I know that would probably help with these if we scheduled the time and we put it out there, because I'm doing it post-training. I never know when I'm going to finish. I don't like to show up for something really late. I usually screw up trying to do it anyhow. And so hit the notification thing, because the notification thing is going to let you know when this goes live. And I understand this may not be the most convenient time for people to be able to do and to follow this, but we will flip it to YouTube as well. So I'm going to shut this down. I appreciate you guys. I thank you. We still have the content support link. I don't know if I put it in the description, but I will. Those products help. So actually, any product purchased through Elite FTS helps support the content. Next week with our content, look for, I think we might have a couple more videos coming up from Nate Harvey. We got more from Swede. On Friday, we post the So You Think You Can Squat with Swede. There's definitely more coming with that. We just had Tyrell out, which is going to be with offensive linemen. And so we got a lot of people planned coming out content. So keep an eye on the channel, hit the bell, whatever you're supposed to do with the bell. Hit the bell, click the bell. I don't freaking know. Have a great weekend. Appreciate you guys. Thank you.